Jai Hind. You are most welcome on my YouTube channel Vedanand Singh. Today I am going to here discuss the political science of class 12th, a new lesson. Name of the lesson is Globalization. In this video I would discuss the complete chapter. So if it is possible, you can take your notebook so that you can write in your copy. Along with this, if it is possible, you can also take your NCERT book. If you go through this video, there is no need to revise NCERT book again and again, because I have used all the sentence and example from that NCERT book is only. So let's what we will discuss in the chapter. NCERT books chapters. First, it would be the concept of globalization. Means basically we'll dig the what is globalization, what are the definition, basic of globalization. After, second thing is that we'll discuss the causes of globalization. Means what are the causes of globalization. After that, we'll discuss about the political consequences. Means what are the political outcomes and the reason for the globalization. And thereafter we'll discuss the economic causes. After the political causes, economic causes, and next it would be the cultural causes, consequences we'll discuss here. After that, third topics, it would be the last third topic is India and globalization. Means what are the roles of India in the term of globalization, and what the resistant to the what are the basic resistant to the globalization we'll also discuss here. And the last term it would be the is India and resistant to globalization. Means what are the basic challenges to India for globalization. So we'll discuss all each and everything in detail as per NCERT book. So please be here in the chapters, and if you are new to this channel, please never forget to subscribe. Okay, now in the first we'll discuss the basic conceptual word. Means what are the basic words that have been used in the chapters, we'll discuss it. First term, it would be globalization. See, it signifies integration of an economy with the economies of the other countries under the process of flow of trade and capital. It means that globalization is an integration of economy with the economy of other countries in the term of trade and capital. Okay, now the next is to be term word is World Social Forum. It is a global forum to bring togetherness and wide coalition of human rights activists and environmentalists and human activities. Means social forum is a platform where it is a coalition of what are the coalition of human rights, environmentalist and women activist. This is a social forum. And the next is term is privatization. It allows the private sector companies to produce goods and services in a country. It means that the privatization is allowing to provide companies to produce goods and services within a country. Okay, means whatever the product would be, it should be produced within a country. And the next topic, it would be liberalization. It signifies relaxation of government rules and regulation related to activities under a center to industrial sector. Means in liberalization there are the rules of government, they get the relaxation and some strict relief against the strict rules and regulation. And the next, it would be the last topics that we'll discuss in the chapter, cultural heterogeneization. It signifies cultural differences and distinct nature of cultures to be generated by globalization. Means cultural heterogeneity we'll discuss. It is basically the differences and distinctive nature of culture we'll discuss in the chapter now. And the last, it would be we can say that in heterogeneization definition, the process of adopting the element of global culture to local culture is known as cultural heterogeneity. Means simply the global culture is adopted by the local people. That's this is known as heterogeneization. Now the first topic of NCERT book is concept of globalization. Means what are the basic concept of globalization. Let's say globalization means the flow of ideas, capital, commodities and people across different parts of the world. It is a multi-dimensional concept. It has political, economic and cultural manifestation, and this must be adequate distinguished. Means in one line, if we say the globalization is a multi-conceptual word That means flow of ideas, capitals, and commodities and people across the world, means a different part of the world. This is the term globalization is this. And the next is globalization does not need globalization need not only be the positive. It is not only the positive effect. And the second, it can be negative consequences for the people also. It always we should think that globalization is not only give the positive impact, it gives the negative impact too. So this is a basic conceptual word, that is the in globalization concept will reach today. Now as a concept, globalization fundamentally deals with the flow. It means that globalization means flow of something. Fundamentally deal with the flow, means either flow of trade, flow of capital, and flow of labor. All these are come in the term of globalization. This flow can be either moving from one part to another part, another part of the world to another, commodities being traded across the border, and so on, as we have discussed all this topic. Now next, the term used this, the crucial element is a worldwide interconnection which is created and sustained as a consequences of this constant flow. It means that crucial element in the worldwide interconnectedness which is created and sustained as a consequences of this constant flow, means the constant flow would be there in the term of globalization. Now next topic of the NCERT book, causes of globalization, means what are the causes of globalization, means basic need and cause for the globalization we will study in this topic. The first thing is that primary causes. The primary causes in the globalization are facilitating international travel with the better transportation, means travel with the better transportation, means with the help of better transportation we can travel from one part to other part of the country world. And the second is making communication and information sharing easily through the advanced technology, means technology is playing a vital role for globalization by means of sharing information and different sources of communication, different sources of travel. All this comes under the technology. Technology plays a vital role, an important role in globalization. And the next is reduction of tariff barrier and promoting world trade, means tariff barrier means the barrier that have the every country have, and the promoting the world trade means simply it promote the world trade, means trade all over the countries. And the next is expanding the world medias, means world media is growth as per the causes of due to the globalization. We can get the quick access of all the information around the countries within a moment of time with the world medias. Okay, now next we'll discuss, this is something advanced, that what are the advantages and disadvantages of globalization. As I have told you earlier, there is not only the advantages of globalization, there are some disadvantages also. First we will look at the what are the advantages of globalization, and there are some disadvantages also. Like the first advantages of the globalization is employment growth, means due to globalization we get employment growth. Let's see how. If suppose India's company, there are so many companies are there, so suppose we take the example of Tata Motors. Tata Motors give the employment not only to the Indians but it is also in the world. So if suppose there are so many MNCs are also there which provides the job to Indians and all other peoples over the countries of the world. And the next is increase in compensation, means it also increases the compensation of the people, those working in a sector, any sectors. And high level of living, means due to the sharing of culture and all these things, the living level of the peoples are increased and they have a better living condition. They try to copy the other worlds, how they are living, what is the living condition of the different countries. These all come under the globalization. This is the advantages of globalization. And the next is encourages mutual understanding across the culture. It means that there are different cultures of the people over the world's countries, and we get the culture with the help of globalization. And the next is encourages economic growth. Means globalization also helps in the economic growth of any countries through the either through the providing job, either goods and services. All these things means you can see the world and the different all the peoples are the around the world, they are communicating with each other. And there are some disadvantages, means some disadvantages. If there are something advantages and disadvantages are also there. First is instability in the market. It means if suppose if it is in India market, something is available in low price which is made by the Indian, and the same thing it is copied from other countries, and they also provide the same thing in the minimum cost. So the people don't move to the Indian product, they would go to the foreign countries product which is in low cost, and they get the maximum facilities. And the second is causes environmental damages. Yes, it also damages the environment. It is also plays a role of environmental damage. Globalization also the plays of the either it is a I have discussed in the last chapter, you can watch the last video. And the encourages the worldwide economic recession, means it also encourages the worldwide economic recession. This is also the main disadvantages of the globalization. Now next look to the consequences. Consequences means outcomes of globalization. What are the outcomes of the globalization? First is political. What are the political consequences of the globalization? We'll read here. First is it results in an erosion of the state by reducing the ability of government to what they want to do. Means political causes is they only not to they reduce the ability of the government to do what they want to do. Means whatever they want to do, it reduces the government's decision and capacity. The next, it gives a way to more minimalist state that performs certain core functions such as maintenance of law, order and security of the citizen. Generally what happens here, the function maintenance of law means there are certain laws of the certain countries. Other countries have their own laws. Due to globalization, they there is a problem in security of the citizen of living of that region. Okay, in that one. And the next is place of the state. The market becomes the prime determinant of the economic and social priority. Means the state market the becoming the prime determinant of the economic and social priorities in the globalization. This is the political causes. And the next is globalization does not always reduce state capacity. The primacy the state continues to be unchallenged basis of political community. Means due to the political communities, they also challenges the globalization, and it also reduces the capacity of the government. Only it does not reduces but also affect the government of many countries. Okay, now the state capacity has arrived boost as a consequences of globalization. We see state capacity means the it also boost the outcomes of the globalization with the technology, with the help of technologies and information about collect the information about the citizen. Means technology, in technology generally what happens, we collect the information of the each and every citizens, and it also gives the challenges to their security of the that citizen. If we get the personal details and each and everything. And the next economic consequences, means first we have read the political consequences, and now it is economic consequences. What are the economic consequences of the globalization? In order to understand the economic consequences, it is important to know that economic globalization involves many sectors other than IMF and WTO. Means here we have read in a international organization, it is a International Monetary Fund, and this is a World Trade Organization. So what happens generally, it doesn't, before knowing the economic consequences, we should know about this term in a detail. Thereafter we can understand it very well. It involves greater economic flow among the different countries of the world. What happened? Globalization involves greater economic flow among the different countries of the world. Along with this, some of these voluntary and some forced international institutions and powerful countries are there. See, in it means that there are some voluntarily and some forced by international institution, so that it can be play a role to be a greater economic flow. Now next is globalization has involved greater trade in commodities across the globe, as it has reduced the imposing of restriction on the import of one countries and on others. It means that it imposes the restriction of import something. If suppose we want to import something from the other country, it gives a wrong feedback, wrong messages to the other countries in the term of other countries. Means if suppose we want to import something from other country, and there is certain rules and regulation of the country which we cannot get, and if we are getting, we have to pay some taxes and everything from there. Now next is economic globalization has created an intense division of opinion over all over the world. Means economic globalization has created intense division, means it has created a division of opinions, means there have the different division of the opinions of the different country of the world. Now next is, according to some, economic globalization is likely to benefit only a small section of the population. Means there are the some due to some globalization, economic globalization, only there are some few sections of the people that is beneficial for them. On other hand, the advocates the economic globalization argued that it generates greater economic growth and well-being for larger section of the population. Means it plays roles for the larger section. There are some things that plays the role for the smaller group of people, and there are some things that plays the role for larger section of the population. That is the basic consequences of the economic globalization that we have read in this topic. Now next is cultural consequences. Mean what are the cultural consequences of the globalization? Cultural means we are just simply way of living, way of all these things come in the cultural consequences. The cultural the consequences of globalization can also be seen on our culture too, and thus it is not confined only to the sphere of the politics and economy. It does not means cultural is not related to only politics and economy, but it is the cultural is also consequences. This now the next of this is process of cultural globalization poses a threat because it leads to the rise of uniform culture and what called the cultural homogenization. Means generally in cultural homogenization, we get the culture of the other countries, means other world, to the local people. That is the cultural homogenization. And the next is cultural globalization has both positive and negative impact on the world. Means that with cultural globalization have both positive and negative effect on the world. She will discuss it. While the cultural homogenization is an aspect of globalization, the same process also generates the precisely the opposite effect. Means it in the cultural homogenization, simply what happens, it gives the positive and negative effect to the people of the world. Now India and globalization, means we'll discuss what are the role of India in the term of globalization. Flow pertaining to the movement of capital, commodities, ideas, people to back several centuries in Indian history. It means that in Indian history, the movement of capital, commodities, and the ideas, people, it has been in the centuries of the world. Means it has been taking place since it is in Indian history about the flow of movement of goods, capital, and ideas, people. During the British rule, India became an exporter of primary goods and raw materials and consumer importer of the finished good. What happened? In the British rule, India became an exporter of primary goods and raw materials. When it was Britishers in India, at that time, India was an exporter of primary goods as well as raw materials, and consumer means importer of finished good. Means India were exporting the raw material to the world of the country. Along with this, they are the importer of finished goods, means the produced good they were getting from the different part of the countries of the world at the time of British rules. After the independence, India decided to be self-sufficient countries rather than being dependent on other. After the independence, India decided to be a self-sufficient countries, means they wanted to make their own goods in the country and they would use it, means we have already read in the last chapter, so there is no need to discuss in detail. Okay, now the next is in 1991 India embarked on program of economic forum that has sought increasingly to deregulate various sectors including trade and foreign investment. In 1991 India has signed on a program, means economic reform, that has been related to decrease the foreign investment and where the trade either increasing their own self product. Suppose this is an example I have taken, means this is a example we have taken from the in India. It is manufactured by the local peoples, but at the present time the same thing is popularized on the global level. Okay, now next, resistant to globalization. Here it is the topic of next topic. Resistance means generally obstacles to globalization. What are the obstacles for the globalization? The first has globalization has invited strong criticism over the globe. For some, globalization represents a particular phase of global capitalism that makes the richer and poor to poorer. It means that globalization criticize all the people over the globe. For some, globalization means sub represent the rich are becoming rich and poor are becoming poorer due to globalization. This is the best resistance for the globalization. And second, culturally, they are worried that trade culture will be harmed and people will lose their age old values and ways. Means what happens generally in the culturally, the traditional culture will harm, means there are some culture of the particular commodity in the country or any particular country, it get harmed due to the globalization, due to because the people copies their cultures and way of living. It also harm the cultures of their own country's culture or commodities culture. This is the main reason for the globalization restriction. And next is, it is important to note there is anti-globalization movement to participate in global network, allying with those who feels like them in other countries. Means there are some anti-globalization movement took place over the countries, means they don't want to copy their cultures and everything. So it is also the important point of the resistance for the globalization. Now next is world social forum. Global, it means the human being activities, they all come together and activities and opposed to neoliberal organization. Globalization means it also asks to not be to globalize in the certain activities and certain areas. Now next to the India's points are countries. India and resistant to globalization, means what are the resistant to India to the globalization. Resistant to globalization in India has come different quarter, means it has coming for the different parts of the country. There are some left wings protest to economic liberalization voiced through the political parties as well through the some forums. Means in India there are some political parties or leftists who protest against this globalization and they raise the voice. Now next, resistance to globalization has also come from the political party, means there are some political party who also oppose that the globalization. This has taken form objective particular to the various cultural influences. See, some points are here. India and resistant to globalization. The India and resistant to globalization in India are some come from left wing, trade union and political lights. These three plays a role to the resistance of globalization from the India side. These are the topics, you can read it and you can note them, it is possible. Now this is and that is the end of the chapter. Now in this last 2-3 pages we have taken the synopsis of entire videos, entire units of the NCERT in this only in 2 pages. First, see, globalization is an integration of economic countries in the process, economic trade, free flow and the capital. It may include brand drain. Understand the brand drain across the border. Brand drain means the drainage of people from one country to another country. It means that simple knowledgeable person, they get the knowledge in the country and they go for the better living condition and for higher payment they leave the country and work in the different part of the country. It is called as brand drain, means drainage of good brand from the countries. Okay, this is I think you have read it. Now next is, it increases the volume of trade in good and services and inflow private foreign capitals, increases foreign direct investment, creates new jobs, strengthens domestic economies and involve the productive efficiency and health competition. Means globalization brings what happens, it brings direct investment, creates new job, strengthens domestic economies and improve productive efficiency and health competition. All these are increase in the globalization. This is a main benefits of the globalization. And the globalization may have negative impact, also had failed to generate sufficient employment. Modern method of cultivation are not acquaintance or less educated person. It creates income to inequalities and exploit the natural resources and labor force. It generally what it does means the globalization have the negative impacts. How it is negative impact? Because it generates the insufficient employment. Along with this, the modern development tools which are used in cultivation is not it means that they are not able to used by uneducated person, because it needs some skill to use the modern technical tools. And also creates income inequalities and exploit the natural resources, also harm the natural resources and the forces. Now the next 4th point, it is globalization is a result of historical factor, technical innovations, liberalization of foreign trade and investment policies and opening of multinational companies. Means globalization also create the result for the historical factors, technological innovations and liberalization of foreign trade and investment policies and opening multinational companies. It is the result or consequences, you may say, under globalization. Now next, globalization consequences may be the political, economic and cultural. We have already discussed that globalization consequences are 3, that is political, economic and cultural. Politically, stunts capacity that received to boost the enhance of the technology to collect information about its citizen. Means politically it boosts the technology. With the help of technology it boosts the information and we get the correct detail of the citizens. And the next is economic flow in a various form like commodity, capital, people and idea promotes the rich countries to the invest their own money in the countries and their own. It also draws attention towards the whole JMF on WTO in determining the economic policies across the world. Okay, this is we have discussed this already in the previously we have discussed all these things. What are the consequences of the economic forum and all these things. Now next is cultural organization. Globalization emerges and enlarges their own choices and modify on cultures without overwhelming the traditional norms. Means like burger cannot be substitute for masala dosa. It is the example. It means that the cultural organization globalization emerges and enlarges our choices and modify it without overwhelming our traditional norms, like burger cannot be substitute for any masala dosa, and hence it broaden our cultural outlook and promote cultural homogenesis means suppose it is a burger, not in Indian, so what happens generally we adopt it by ourselves, and it what generates it basically promote the cultural homogenization. Generally it promotes homogenization. Now the next is globalization has been criticized over political, economic and cultural ground. Means globalization has been criticized over the political, economic and cultural ground, and the politically it is weakened the state by reducing its sovereignty. Economically it has made the rich richer and poor poorer, creating disparities, and culturally there has been harmed traditions and lost its values and ways. The World Economic Forum, Social Forum, has also opposed the new liberal globalization. It means that due to globalization, it criticized to all the political, economic, cultural, etc. If for the example, if you talk about the economically means rich peoples are becoming richer and the poor peoples are becoming poorer, and it creates disparity among rich people and poorer people. If we take the culturally, in culturally it lost the various ways, traditions of the different peoples or different commodities all over the countries of the world. Okay, if we take in India, the ninth point, it is in India globalization has led to the setting up of foreign companies, as India released the need for the relating the Indian economic with the world responding 1991 financial crisis. It means that in India globalization has set up for foreign companies, means multinational companies has been is in India, and it released the need for the Indian economy. It boosts the Indian economy also because they provide the different jobs. And in 1991 there were financial crisis in 1991, so that it can be the improvement for the economic of any countries. Globalization process include the thrust to the liberalization or privatization, and liberalization proclaims freedom of trade and investment, controls allocations of resources in domestic economy, rapid technology process, whereas privatization allows private sector and foreign companies to produce goods and services. It means that in globalization what happens, there are two, it includes two, that is liberalization and privatization or privatization. Liberalization gives the freedom of trade and investment, control allocation of resources in democratic country, along with the growth of technology, and along in where privatization it proclaims or improve the private sector and other foreign company to produce their goods and services within the country. Okay, now next the 11th number, resistance to globalization. What are the resistance means? Challenges to globalization in India has come from the different quarter. Left wings protest to economic liberalization, trade union of industrial workforce organized protest against the multinational and patents, resistance from the political right, objecting to various cultural influences of foreign TV channels, liberalization of Valentine days and westernization of dress of girls students in school and college. See, what are the resistance of globalization in India? First thing is that left wings, they protest regarding to economic liberalization, trade union on industrial workforce, and against the multinational, because they are against the multinational companies and passion. And in the political, objecting the various cultural means cultural thing they are adopted by the Indian, like Valentine days, etc. These are the foreign. Westernization of dress, girls student in school means they are the girls students, they are copying the dresses from the western countries. These are the resistant to globalization in India. Now the next is some environmental, it would be a 12 point, sorry, by the mistake it is written 10. Environmental movements are movements of group that are environmentally conscious to challenge environmental degradation on national or international level, aiming at the raising new ideas and long-term vision. In Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, India force enormous pressure. Means environmental movements are related to environment degradation, to make the challenges and aware the people of the country to stop the degradation, environmental degradation, by the different mode of activities, whether it is land activities, whether different industrial activity. It means that indirectly which are those activities which are responsible for environmental degradation at national or international level. It means they give the maximum long term vision. In example, we can say in Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, India has an enormous pressure regarding the environmental degradation. Now it is a 13 points. I think it would be 13 points. The environmental movements are categorized as a forest movement, movements against the mining and mineral industries for creating water pollution, and anti-dam movement. Generally what happens in environmental protest is categorized into the forest movements, movements against mining, means the process of extracting mine ores from the earth surface, that is mining, and mineral industry for creating water pollution, and dam movement. These are the important of and comes under the environmental movements. Now next it is, that is the 11 last, the next point is resource geopolitics. Resource geopolitics is all about those who get that what and where and how. This practices new colonization spreaded on the large scale, and through a cold war and industrialization, countries adopted the method to ensure the steady flow of resource by deployment of the military forces near exploitation site and sea level of communication, along with the stop filling of strategic resource and effort to prop up friendly government. It means that in the resource geopolitics what happens, generally we get the ideas how and when and from where we get the resources. Mainly it gives and spread the ideas on large scale through the Cold War. Means Cold War means generally this is a war of conversation. We give challenge to other countries. Along with this, generally, and one thing is it is sometimes it requires military forces to stop at the sea level communication. All these are comes under geopolitics, resource geopolitics. Now the next point, the global economics relieved on oil and portable and essential fuel. The history of the petroleum is history of war and struggle. See, this is an important point. The history of petroleum is a history of war and struggle. Not down it is. Means the history of petroleum is that it comes with the war and struggle. War means here not only to fight with any country. It means that Cold War, they are talking about the Cold War and each and everything. Water is another important resource relevant to the global politics. Means water is also global politics in point of view. The water is also the part of global politics, because there are some water is distributed over the world, but there are some countries there is a scarcity of water, so it also comes under the global economics due to the it comes, so that it comes under the globalization. The regional variation and increasing scarcity of fresh water may also lead to the conflict in the world to play politics. Means increasing the scarcity of fresh water, it brings the conflict among the countries. Okay, so I hope you are getting all these things in better way. Now the next and the last 2 points is here. After that will be the end of the chapter. Indigenous people issues the environmental resource political together. Indigenous people live with their social, economic, cultural custom in the area, who speak their struggle and agenda, right to have equal status as land in the ocean region, Central America, Africa, India and Southeast Asia. All these are the recently we talk about the indigenous people, means those people who are living in the country for a long time and they have certain rights also. So they have also their social economics and they have also all these things to freedom to speech, all these are the agendas and they have equal right as the people living in that country. Okay, now the next last is the issues related to right of indigenous community have been neglected in the domestic and international for a long time. It has been in the global politics, international politics for a long time. They should have that also right. The war concept indigenous people are formed in 1994 and which has become 11 indigenous NGOs and received the culture and UN. Yes, we have discussed it from the last chapter. We have taken this chapter 2-3 points from the last chapter because I think this chapter may be the part of this. With this and we would say you should write note down in your notebook. It is beneficial. And after that we will bring another video. In that video generally what we do, we will bring the question answer of NCERT only. So never forget to watch that video, and if it is possible you can write down the answer in your copy. And if you are new to these chapters and you feel that it is beneficial for you and you are getting the content which are beneficial for you, so never forget to subscribe this channel. With this end, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.